We're gonna, we're gonna call the meeting to order. This is the Arts Commission meeting for February 1st, 2022. And we're gonna call the roll call. This is Mark Allen, Chairman, Robert Abriola.
Robert Abriola, Vice Chair, present.
Elizabeth Tardif.
Present.
Thank you so much. Stephen Rust.
Present.
Brian Casper.
Brian Casper, voting member. Good night, Moon.
Thank you so much. We have Heidi Alterman.
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Janet Evelyn.
Present.
Melissa Matuska.
Present.
Okay. Did I miss any other voting members?
I think you're all set, Mark.
Okay, very good. Okay, meeting called to order. And do we have anybody here from the general public who would like to address the Arts Commission? Now would be a good time.
Mark, I think we have Duvian and Julio here, but they're here to speak to an item, and we have nobody else in the attendees list. So I think
There was one woman that I invited. She wanted to speak, but I think she was having trouble getting into the meeting. But
we just got on.
okay.
Okay, is she on now?
Yep, she can unmute. Do you know her name, Heidi? Sorry.
Yeah, it's Marina. Marina, if you can hear me, if you want to speak about the program you wanted to talk about, now is a good time.
Hi. Okay. So the one about Georgetown Arts coming.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So hi, my name is Marina. Pre-COVID, my kids took some wonderful art classes. It's through the Georgetown School of Arts, and they were being held at the time at the Senior Center in Norwalk, and it was a great facility. They had some great space, and they were small classes, and maybe like five to one, painting, drawing, different mediums. And right now Norwalk is, I guess they're not able to host the school, so we're trying to see if we could bring it somewhere in town. She does teach classes in Georgetown, I believe Wilton, New Canaan, so it really depends on the availability of space and if someone would be willing to host. It is a for-profit school. They're very affordable classes. The classes were $99 for like 8 or 9 sessions. And, I think the kids really enjoyed the art and the activity. In fact, I would even push her to do an hour and a half for like the older kids, because I think by the time you get in, take your coat off, maybe she was very organized. All the materials were set up. Everything was, done in advance. So I think that, there was definitely a system and a method. So, so I would love to bring anything like that to town. I have more ideas.
Marina, how many students approximately?
So each class was 5 to 6. She might have maxed out at like 8. So per instructor.
We're gonna throw our wallpaper studio in. We have space, and we are happy to host people if they're looking for spaces, especially for high school and college age kids. There may be other more qualified spaces, but I'd just like to say that we definitely have it here.
That's awesome. So Marina, if you'd like, why don't you write an email intro to myself and to Brian. You can write to us at the Arts Commission Gmail, which is livelovenorwalk@gmail.com. And Heidi can also give that to you. But then I'll respond back. If you want to write to that email, I'll make sure that you're introduced to Brian. You can make arrangements to see his space. We have some people on the line now who are with the Norwalk Art Space. This is maybe something that they would be interested in, but we can certainly make any introductions that we can to help you.
So thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that. I have actually reached out to the Norwalk Art Space, which is an amazing space. And they are doing some amazing things with everything. And also, I know that they're offering free classes to older children, which again is wonderful. But for myself in this school in particular, I mean, I'll look for anything. In this particular case, we're talking about elementary school kids. So the ages range from 8 to 11. No, I'm sorry, 5 to 11. So I know maybe they would offer their space. I don't know, but I know that right now and I think that they've been approached many times because that was the answer. Because I inquired and they said, right now they're doing a lot of classes for older kids, but nothing right now for the younger sets. So I'm sure there's, it's by design. There might be a really good reason for it. So
It's hard to say, but are these students likely to come from Norwalk?
Yes, I think in this case, I would say yes, because the school is like a traveling school. She has a space in the Georgetown area, the school is based there, but she travels from town to town and it's really based on interest. So I know that she does Wilton at the Miller Driscoll School, and I believe she's done New Canaan, and I'm not sure where else. But then, of course, she was doing Norwalk, but that was pre-COVID. So again, I'd love to find a space. So
Yeah, it may
that,
be interesting. I wonder if would be interesting to, the Tracy Elementary School in Norwalk is a magnet school that's specifically for arts now, and both I met the woman who is she's one of the owners of Cole's Pizza Restaurant in Norwalk, but she's an educator at that school, and so I'm happy to introduce you to them. I don't know if they would be open to that, or if that would have to go through the Norwalk Board of Ed, but I'm certainly happy to make that introduction.
thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Marina? Okay.
Hey, Mark, this is Duvian from the art space, Norwalk Art Space. I'm sorry, I'm sort of in and out, but I would consider hosting some classes there, if that's still the topic, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm somewhere else. Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about the space, Marina, that you're interested in hosting classes there.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
So when I get your email, I'll forward that to Duvian as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the November 9th regular meeting? We tabled that at the last meeting because not enough people had really read it. Did anyone have any questions about November 9th, that meeting minutes? Okay, in that case, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th meeting as noted?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Elizabeth Tardif?
Liz Tardif.
Liz Tardif, got it. Do we have?
I will second.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I'm going to vote aye on that, and we'll pass it over to Stephen Rust.
I vote aye.
Okay. Janet Evelyn? Janet, are you there?
Yeah, I'll abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Fair enough. Brian Casper?
Brian Casper, aye.
Bob Abriola? We seem to have lost Bob at the moment. I will find out what's happening there. Heidi Alterman, you would need to abstain because you are new.
Right.
Uh,
Thanks.
So Sabrina, in this case, I'm going to reach out to Bob and see how his connection is. Um, do we have a quorum at this point with the
Yep,
number of
that's
votes that
there.
we have?
Yep, because there's enough voting members here and the majority accepted.
Okay. What is that quorum number at this point?
6.
Is that 6? Oh, are we at full staff now?
We are missing 2 still.
Oh, even with Heidi Alterman?
Yep, because we're missing 2 voting members of the public. We have 2 council members. So Liz is counting for Tom Keegan, and then Heidi's counting for herself. And
Okay,
we're
so
missing the public.
we still need 6 to approve or not approve.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, in that case, we can move on to the minutes for December 7th. Did anyone have any issues with the minutes as noted in the email that you received? Okay, in that case, is there a motion to approve the minutes for December 7th? Anybody?
Brian Casper, I'll motion to approve these minutes.
Thank you so much, Brian. Is there a second on that motion?
Melissa will second.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, as Mark Allen voting aye. Brian Casper.
Sorry, reading Very Hungry Caterpillar. I approve the minutes. Aye.
Not a problem. Janet Evelyn.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna abstain because I don't remember being at that meeting either, but, and I didn't,
I don't think you were here, Janet.
yeah.
Okay. And Bob Abriola. I'm going to reach out to Bob here for a second. Give me just a second.
Yeah, he's here. He's just muted.
Okay. Okay, I texted him. Sorry. Okay, and who else do we have? Stephen Rust?
Sorry, yeah, Steve Rust, voting aye.
Okay, I believe that's all we have, right? That's not enough for a quorum.
If Melissa voted aye, it still is, because you just have to have 6 people voting. They don't all have to be yes.
I
Does that
see.
make-
Oh, fair enough. Got it. That makes perfect sense now. Sorry. Okay, thank you so much. So the ayes have it. So that's passed. Oh, we don't have Nori Gruden here today, I realize, unfortunately. So we can't.
I can walk through the finance stuff if you want me to, Mark.
Yeah, that'd be great. So let's get a finance update, and thank you, Sabrina.
So I will say a little update on the budget to come. I put the request for the $50,000 for the Art in Public Places program again. That seems to be going well. We even got the question if we're being funded enough, which is always a good question to be asked by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Even though they don't make decisions on the money, they can recommend that it be altered. So that was exciting. So that seems to be going well. I also proposed the update to the public art inventory as well, to be able to not only update what we currently have. I think the last time it was updated was 2016. And then we would also have an RFP to digitize that as well, so that people can search online to see where the pieces are and be able to pull up information on those pieces wherever they are in the city.
Great.
So that should be great. I'm hoping that goes smoothly as well. That art public maintenance fund that we're starting, that's coming out of the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. So we'll have some funds there to be able to maintain the public art that we have that might, need some repair whether that be on, a private piece that's in a public location or something that we physically own. For example, like the O'Neill's mural or the one on Donovan's, those types of things, we can also use that funding for. We also put in the same operating budget as last year, which is, I believe, around $14,000. So that we had no changes. So my gut's telling me that we'll be fine on that front. I do want to give an update that I reached out to the Visit Norwalk team to see how much it would cost for them to take over the social media stuff for us, and post the newsletter and all that fun stuff to really get more active on there, to have somebody dedicated full time. They're getting that proposal to me. I'm also getting a special events staff person that will be hopefully on staff within the next month and a half-ish. So some of their responsibilities will be shared with that social media stuff as well, so that we're not outsourcing and we're slowly moving it all in-house over time. And then, so that's the update for what's to come. But going over what we have, let me just share my screen really quickly. Here we go.
Hello, I have Nori just called me. She's having trouble logging into the meeting. So I'm going to give her the dial-in information. Just stand by 1 second, please.
No problem.
Hello, sorry, I'm back.
No problem. So this is the current budget of what we have left. We have $888 left in printing and duplicating. The 250 that we transferred was to cover the tent that we got last year. So that's why you see that there, in order to cover the balance for that. We have 1,500 left in secretarial services, so that's just for Telesco. We have 1,500 left in advertising. So that's the money we use to do booths and things like that to promote the commission. We usually spend that around the end of the year. So that's why that number is pretty much still whole, because we use that for events, which we haven't done yet this fiscal year. We are waiting on an invoice from the film festival to be processed. So that will hit the books eventually as well. The other professional services line item is down to $4,000, which is pretty much in good standing where we should be with Michelle's invoices, because that's what that covers. The business expenses, we still have $1,000 in there. We used to use that for things like materials that we would need to be at an event or for an exhibition or things like that. So we still have that funding available for things to come in this fiscal year. And you'll see that other operating supplies had to be transferred to cover that tent. So all in all, we have about $8,000 left in the budget, which is where we should be at. We're about halfway through the fiscal year, but we should think about programming and spending the rest of the funding to come. The other professional services is Michelle, so it's accounted for. Same thing with the secretarial services, but the remaining funds, the 1,500 in advertising, the 880 in printing and duplicating, and that $1,000 in business expenses, those are all up for programming still. And then, go ahead, Mark.
In terms of the events, when we had voted to support the Norwalk Film Festival, after that I had gotten a message from Jessica Casey saying that we really questioning whether it was fully appropriate to support the film festival in the way that we did, and talking about, not voting to support events, because we can't support every event, and how we can do it and what's appropriate. So that still is very unclear to me. So I'm just going to say, in terms of our events budget, I think we really need to examine that and make sure that what we're doing is appropriate.
Yeah, so her perspective and the city's perspective is that we should only be paying to support events if we're going to have a physical presence there to promote the commission. So if we're going to have a booth or a tent or have pamphlets or something available at a specific location,
Right.
that's how we should do it. I also can add that the Business Development and Tourism Department is also onboarding that special events coordinator, whether that be a firm or a group of people, which will hopefully be able to support some events, which we haven't been able to do in the past because we haven't had funding to do so. There's also $70,000 within the ARPA funds that we have allocated to host city-run events that weren't programmed before. We're still mulling around kind of what those will be, whether they'll be arts-related, farmers markets, those types of things. But we're waiting to onboard the special events folks to be able to really program a robust kind of event calendar per se for the city on the city side, because right now the only events that the city actually throws are the ones that are through Parks and Recs, like the summer concert series and things like that. So we're going to be doing more in the future on that front as well. But before we approve anything, in the coming months, we should definitely have a conversation about if it's appropriate or not before it comes to the floor. And that can be discussed, offline with me or in infrastructure, and I'm happy to, be at that meeting as well.
Okay, just so you know, Nori has dialed in. She is muted at the moment. I don't think she's able to unmute, but
I believe it's *6 or *9 is unmute. Oh, she's on the phone.
okay, I'm gonna let her know.
And then lastly, this is the capital budget account for the MLK art project. We have $13,000 left in that account, I believe. Yep. Lauren has been paid in full at this point in time. So she is all set. Let me, hold on. I'm putting Lori in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. She should be okay to be able to talk, but she has to mute herself on the phone.
Am I reading it correctly
Now?
that there's $13,000 left over from that initial budget on
Yep.
MLK?
Yep. So there's $13,000 left over, and that's mainly because we had allocated that amount for the student art project, which we'll talk about tonight. And then additionally, as you all know, we have the $25,000 in the Art in Public Places program that's still unprogrammed. So we can, I know Brian has some thoughts about that, and we've had a few conversations about that as well, but we have that funding to implement public art in the city as well.
That's great.
And then I believe that's it for me.
So great. Nori, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so just share,
Okay.
Acknowledging Nori Gruden. If you just state your name for the record so we know you're here.
Yes, Nori Gruden, treasurer.
Thank you so much. So Sabrina just
You're
took us
welcome.
through an update on the budget. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, I did not.
Okay. Going to move on to the Communications Committee. We've had a really good month at the Communications. The social media stuff that Michelle's doing has been going really well. Again, we don't know when that will shift to Sabrina's staff, if that'll happen, but we'll keep you informed on that, and she'll have to keep us informed. But the social media stuff has been going really good in general. I also put out a newsletter on for Martin Luther King Day, that went out on our MailChimp account. And I did it primarily to highlight the MLK project. It went out to our mailing list of 575 people. The open rate was very good. It was 37.5%. So it was over 200 people opened it. I got some responses that came into the email address that were very positive. So overall, that was really well received, and I think people are really excited about the MLK project in general. So I think that, it couldn't have been, the timing really couldn't have been better. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you is we received a couple of really nice emails that were unrelated to that, but in general, that one of which came from an artist whose family is in Norwalk, and I believe she used to live in Norwalk, but now she lives in New York. She's a muralist and a painter. Her name is Bianca Romano. She's a multi-ethnic, very interesting artist who has only been painting 5 years, but she has, I didn't know, but I'd seen her work firsthand when I was in Williamsburg. She had done this humongous wall-size mural that was sponsored by Maker's Mark Liquor Company. And it was a beautiful mural. And so anyway, she wrote to us just looking for opportunities to paint in Norwalk. So to me, that tells me that our social media and, the word is out about Norwalk as an arts city. And then finally, I received a second email just a day and a half ago from a guy who is, he was from Orange, Connecticut. He's a retired man who is he's just passionate for the arts. And he was writing to me. He had driven down to Norwalk. He went to City Hall. He inquired about the Arts Commission. They gave him my number, and he called me. And he was what he wanted to know was how he can get in touch with Five Fingers, because he wanted to maybe buy some artwork or commission him for something. And it was really interesting. And he basically said that from his opinion, being from Orange, is that he feels like Norwalk is like the hot city for arts in his opinion. And it was really encouraging to hear. So I feel like things are going in the right direction, at least as far as getting the word out about what we're doing here. So that said, that's all I really have. And if there's no other questions or comments about that, we can turn it over to Brian for an update on the infrastructure committee.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm not showing my face. I hate to give updates like this and not show my face, but like I said, I'm watching my son. Not a ton from infrastructure, but the big main thing was just wrapping up the final piece of the MLK project. We had a meeting a couple weeks back, just bringing up some concerns, which will either be addressed or talked about later in that aspect of our meeting. Also, I guess just kind of piggybacking off the budget thing and the capital budget, art in public places, as well as what is potentially left over for MLK. I'd like to see what we can do to move forward with some of those ideas. I had initially brought up the idea of doing an underpass with that money, and potentially any money that may be left over from the MLK project, rolling it into that. So obviously choosing a space that's within the MLK corridor, so it still fits within that project, or that, I guess, what that budget has been allocated for. I guess next steps are creating a request for proposals or a request for artists. So I'm not sure if that's something we need to vote on, or if or just kind of what the next steps are. Pardon my ignorance with this. So that's really where we stand on infrastructure, are those two big main things. There's been a little bit of talk offline with David Shockley, and Sabrina and Mark have been on those emails too, regarding the Norwalk River Trail, which is set to open in spring. simply put, they're looking to add art in a couple places, but I think the timeline and the lack of budget is really not on our side. But it's something that is, hopefully going to move forward. It's good to see that they're interested in utilizing these spaces. So we're going to keep that conversation going, but I don't have any major updates there. So I guess the big overhanging question is, how do we move forward with the 25K capital budget and or whatever's left over with MLK to put some art on some walls?
Very good. Did anyone have any questions for Brian?
Mark, I would just wanted to say, from an RFP standpoint, or a call for artists, really, you guys can move ahead in committee to release that. Just make sure you share with me so that everything's A-okay. But then after you have, spoken about who you think is best, that's when we'll bring it to the full commission to get a vote. But those decisions should probably be made offline when you're really being who you're looking to choose.
Great. In that case, does that also include the location, or I'm sure it's a chicken, what came first, chicken versus egg, but does that include for us to decide on the location for this? Is that something we need to vote on as a commission as well?
You can also choose a location on offline, but I also have to vet the location pretty heavily depending on where you choose. Just make sure I'm in the loop on that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well then, I guess that's gonna be a big next step for infrastructure committee. Is on our next meeting. We'll chat about the ins and outs of that, and hopefully have a really something really substantial come spring, and if not next meeting.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, so moving on, we're going to get into some new business. We have a proposal for lighting the art of the recent MLK installation. That is coming from Stephen Rust, so we're going to turn it over to Stephen.
Thanks, Mark. Share my screen. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the hope is to put up a simple lighting installation over the mural and get a little more visibility, a little increased visibility for it, especially like this time of year, perhaps increased security. And I think it can be done very simply and relatively inexpensively. The costs are something we can get into in a minute, but the idea is just very simply for floodlights kind of fitting across the building, kind of fits it or lends itself to an electrical installation. We do need to learn a little more about what the building has and such, and what people may allow us to do there, but that will be the next step if people think this is something we want to pursue. So the idea is, pretty simple. We're looking at, a few different views here, right? So this is basically a simple conduit layout, each fixture across the front, a few switches. There'd be a motion and a photo sensor switch that would, turn it on, obviously, when somebody goes by. If it's dark, photo sensor keeps it off during the daytime, as would the timer switch. We need to learn about what power is available, if there is power available, but it really does not require all that much power. These fixtures are 35 watts a piece, very simple kind of LED floodlight. So again, the building really does lend itself to it just because of the way it's set up. We may be able to get conduit up into these seams between this precast concrete ceiling. Anyhow, so I did some really quick estimates. There's some other things we need to learn about in the building itself, but the power cost would be really minimal. We're looking at a total of 140 watts, and I made some assumptions of how long the fixtures would be on through the course of a year, but that's obviously a pretty subjective thing, but basically coming out to around 1,600 hours a year And based on what I can find online for South Norwalk electrical rates, it looks like it would be around 30, probably well under $50 a year to run this. The fixtures are relatively inexpensive. The other equipment that would go into this would be inexpensive. But the big question will be the building itself, whether or not Department of Public Works and the facility that runs this, I believe, is called OMI. Sabrina, I hope you can help me out on this a little bit. But so that's it in a nutshell. The idea is if we think this is something we want to go forward with, we'd get more involved with Department of Public Works and OMI, get a little bit more research going and see what is available within the building and if this is something feasible. That's it. Love to hear what people have to think.
I think
If I could just jump in real quick. So we would just have to loop in WPCA, Public Works, and SNU. There may be something that SNU is willing to work out with us for the actual cost of power as well. A lot of times they have community funds of sorts that pay for certain things like this. So we can have that conversation with them via email and see what their thoughts are if we want to move this forward.
Sabrina, do you think that we may find the money for this without having to use any portion of our MLK funding? Like, for instance, do you think that we could, do you think that there may be money from, say, from DPW or from some other budget other than the public arts budget?
There might be. We just have to ask the question for sure.
Okay, because I had spoken to, excuse me, Stephen, did you have a chance to speak to Lewis?
I did. I spoke to him and to David Shockley today. Both gave me some good information, but mostly their next steps of Lewis is looking for who the right person would be to present to, and David gave me some ideas of people to contact at OMI.
So is OMI related to Suez, do you know? Lewis had sent me a text saying that he thought that he thinks that the sewage plant on Wilson Avenue specifically is under contract to something that he called Suez, capital S-U-E-Z. I don't know what that is, but
he mentioned that to me too. David said it was OMI that runs it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with either, so that's
Yeah,
great. I knew
likewise.
that David and Lewis would be the right people to talk to. And Lewis, of course, works with Sabrina and Jessica as well, so. I think
Okay.
I would add a name to your list. Sorry, this is Julio, is Anthony Carr. He was the point person that we talked to get this space painted.
I was wondering, thanks, Julio. Do you have a contact you could send?
I can send it to you, yes.
Okay.
Stephen, I can just loop in everybody via email. I have all their contact information.
That's great. Thanks, Sabrina. Yeah, that makes the, of course, somebody had to have approved painting the mural on the building, right? Whoever that was in that organization should be who we go through. Yeah.
Fair
Makes
enough.
sense. Yeah.
But your proposal looks great. I think you did an amazing job. Really appreciate it. I think it's a great idea because to highlight the art, but of course that that's a as you said, it's kind of a dark corner. And there's not a lot of foot traffic there normally. So I think the fact that a lot of traffic there is driving by, I think the more visible it is, the better.
Yeah. Seems like it could work out well. Yeah, and you figure what, 2 or 3 cars going by every minute during rush hour. The exposure, it's an easy calculation of how many more people get to see it if it's lighted again, especially this time of year.
And I'd like to see this type of proposal for as much of the artwork as that we create as possible. I think it's a great thing to think about, and I'm not a lighting person, so thank you for bringing that to the fore.
Yeah, and these costs seem super minimal, so it seems very feasible within some of these budgets to toss on a couple extra $100 to put some of this stuff in there, especially with LED lighting and all that. So yeah, I think this is an amazing idea.
Great, thanks. Yeah, there's one other thing on the fixture too. I mean, part of this, if we are able to keep moving forward on it, is that, I want to make sure that we work with Lauren to select the right fixture. This fixture that I'm looking at here has a selectable color temperature, so it can, be sort of a warm color in between, or a fairly cool color. And, and that's actually selectable on site. So it's something that we can look at, we can turn on, we can test it with her. Maybe we buy one fixture even, and just have a look and see what she thinks represents it best. All right, so I think the next step, if everybody agrees, then I guess is to continue this research. It sounds like Anthony Carr is a good recommendation, and we'll keep going to see what we can find out about the electrical infrastructure of the space.
Right on. So if you if we get lucky and find the money from other departments and we can help push it forward, that's terrific. Obviously, if it comes down to voting on funding that we have, obviously then we would need to vote on that. But I think that you've done great work. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay, in that case, let's move on to under old business. We're going to turn it over to Janet and Julio, and let's
Hang on just a second. That was new business, right?
That was new business.
Can we add what we got across the Instagram feed that the school was looking for?
Oh yeah, we should have talked about that in communications. I'm sorry for not turning it over to you, but yeah, you can certainly tell everybody about that.
So we had a teacher, an art teacher, reach out to the Norwalk Arts Commission through our Instagram feed, and she was inquiring about artists coming to visit with the art classes to shed light on what it's like to be an artist, maybe share their work. Just someone to go do kind of like a show and tell, or teach class, whichever they want to do. They would leave it open. I'm trying to pull up that message to see. I need to switch users, so it'll be a minute. But it was one of the schools that starts with an N. Does someone know the school by chance?
In Merrimack?
Yes, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you. Would anyone, now she did mention that they currently have closed campus right now because of COVID, but when that does lighten up, I do feel like this is something that would be a good opportunity for the Norwalk Arts Commission to work with our educational system and kind of help provide those resources to hook the teacher up with connections.
Melissa, I think this could be a really good sort of project for the communications sort of committee. I think that's a perfect, and then whether it turns into a program or if we are simply helping be a conduit for introducing artists to the schools for the sake of it happening. Either way, I think that could be a perfect thing for us to work on as a collaboration of the communications committee. If you're open to it, I'm open to it.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I just don't know who to connect her to. If anyone wants to raise a hand saying, hey, I'm happy to, go visit. I'm just not an artist. I'm happy to help and connect someone.
I'm definitely happy. This is something I'm super passionate about, is, communicating some of this stuff to young kids, something I didn't get as a child. So I'd be more than happy to go chat with kids just on a personal level. If you want to reach out to me directly or connect them.
Absolutely.
But I agree with Mark. Yeah, rolling this in the communications could be good. I even get friends who visit me who are artists from out of town. Even to just potentially have a system like that in place to communicate some of this stuff is amazing.
Awesome. Well, Brian, I will connect the two of you guys so that way y'all can talk.
Yeah, if you could forward that, maybe sort of respond back to the person on Instagram, give this person the our email, and let's switch it over to an email conversation and see what we can work out.
Absolutely. All right,
All
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, let's turn it over to Julio and Janet.
Hey, guys. So, in our last meeting, Julio, presented some cost and elements for the student community part of the Martin Luther King project that, we had initially stated, had slated to be part of the, MLK Artist Quarter, and that was a student, I guess that's what we had identified, or what Julio had identified as a community aspect of the program. And I think initially he had started out, there was something about $7,000 or $7,500 that was allocated towards a student community art component to the MLK Corridor project. And we discussed that. He presented some cost elements and some elements about that. There were some questions with regards to exactly how the cost were being allocated, or what they would be applied to, what components would cost what. And we had adjourned the meeting with him coming back to this meeting with some more clarification on exactly how those dollars, I think we were up to about $8,000, and of course Julio will let us know what that is, or $8,500, exactly how those costs would be spent. So Julio, you're.
Thank you, Janet, very much. Yes, as Janet just alluded to, and actually Brian said as well, we met offline, and we've also had discussions within the infrastructure committee, and basically just giving feedback as to how the proposal breaks down. And then, yeah, I guess I'll just jump right into it. This is the third part. Let's see. Can we see my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Thank you. So this is the student artist project, part of the MLK Dream Street project, which we did the 2 murals with Lauren, and then this would be the third part. This was from the original proposal. And just to refresh everyone, the goal here was to provide opportunity, cultivate talent, and involve youth in the Norwalk arts community. Our assignment here was working with teaching artist Jermaine West. Students will create public artworks for the MLK corridor in South Norwalk. So, yeah, basically what I'm sharing here is the project proposal. It breaks down as 4 2-hour weekly workshops and techniques and execution of street art. This workshop will offer this immersive learning experience to high school and college age students for the purpose of creating public art in conjunction with the Dream Street project for the MLK corridor in South Norwalk. So basically, it would be a four class structure. And then over here on the right would be the breakdown for the teaching artist time breakdown. And this would be the program development, the actual studio classes, student exhibition, and then the actual arts productions and materials, production part of it, and then the actual art installation. So we total out at 50 hours as far as his time to teach this program. Any questions here before I move on?
Just to clarify what Julio said, he said to teach, but this also includes installation. This is beyond just the teaching portion, correct?
Thank you. Yes. We're clear. Yes.
The art installation is 36 hours. Okay.
Yeah, it's four sites So, and yeah, basically, yeah, it would be for 8 students. That's how, and just basically 4 sites that we're looking at. So here's the budget, the proposed budget broken down. We have the teaching artist fee at $4,000, the Norwalk Art Space Studio and use and administration. That's why Duvian was on the call, but unfortunately he had to leave us. So this program would be run through the Norwalk Art Space. Production and materials we have at $1,000, insurance at $1,000, and for a total of $7,500. We have an estimated timeline here. Obviously, student promotion invitations would happen next month. The actual workshops would probably happen in April. And then some sort of public input or student showing probably in May. And the actual arts production would be May, June 2022 delivery. So again, this is estimated budget. There are numbers here that could probably move around, but this is.
What is the production and materials is $1,000? What does that entail?
That would be any sort of paints, brushes, anything, materials, that we would need to actually create the art on the box.
Because I noticed in the under the timeline, you had allocated a certain amount of time for production and materials. Was that because that was just for the production, essentially?
The actual production, actually going and creating the art. But the production and materials, yeah, it's basically, yeah, the materials that would be part of it, yeah. And then production-wise, say you need to get a van to get everybody there or something like that. Any sort of extra cost that could happen.
And where is the in terms of the $1,000 budget for insurance? What is that based? Is that based on any research, or do you
That's
have a
just
quote?
based on, that's actually based on what the insurance was for the other MLK projects. So I just use that as a number. There may not be an insurance issue, but the reality is that you do have students, and you're taking them and they're working on site. So there may be some insurance that has to be in place for that to happen.
Julio, that's not insurance for the art space, right? That anything the art space is charging is in the 1,500.
Yes. No,
Okay.
this would be for, site insurance. So like for the MLK Lawrence murals were insured for liability. Anybody falls or she gets hurt doing the thing. That's what that was for.
So as far as the Norwalk Art Space use, that use would be for what? And then what would be the administrative cost for that?
Well, we would be leaning on them and obviously using their roles for finding the students. So they obviously have those connections, and they would be the ones that would kind of put it out there. And then, yeah, just kind of managing those student admissions and things like that, getting them all, so that they're all registered and all that stuff. And then actual man hours of whoever has to be there for to administrate the space while we're in it.
Julio, so the art space would then be responsible for finding the students?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, and
actually also Jermaine has his own, obviously his own connections as well. So he's pretty linked in, obviously within the community, but within the school system as well.
so do we have something in place where the students, we would ensure that the students specifically come from within the Martin Luther King corridor?
That could be a stipulation. Obviously, Jermaine and would be the one that kind of picks those students. So I think the goal really is to get kids involved in the arts community and to create something for the MLK corridor.
Can you go back to the hour breakdown again, please? How many hours are actually in the, so that if I'm doing it right, there'd be 16, 18 hours at the art space?
Let's see, 8, 10. I think that's a good, actual physical, you've got the 8, you got the 2. And we're talking about the students here, obviously. During the installation, I would assume that maybe there's storage and things like that would happen there. But yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Okay, thanks.
And then the rate on the 4,000 for the 50 hours, roughly $80 an hour. Is that an industry rate? Type of work for teaching art and like overseeing these kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of a program like this. Obviously, there are like programs run through the school system. So it would be that a different thing than that. So yeah, I don't know that it has any sort of precedent as far as that. These are numbers that kind of came out of the budget and came out of the conversations with Jermaine and kind of figure out his time and how many hours he would be putting towards it. So obviously, Jermaine is someone that represents for the city of Norwalk. He has a lot of experience in this type of work. So yeah, this is Jermaine West, basically that you're getting here.
Yeah, well, along those lines, it seems like this is really a master class, right?
Yeah.
And so it really seems like it's a more select kind of idea, targeting kids with potential, I assume, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I think that was a great way to put it. It's a mentor for a lot of these kids. And Brian alluded to it earlier, like, a lot of us that grew up creative kids, like if you had that mentor early on that kind of showed you like, oh, this is possible, that's invaluable.
Yeah, agreed. It's a good thing.
Julio, have we approached the art space with regards to them donating the space there for the work? I mean, understanding that, they already have the capacity, the studios already in place, so forth and so on, that they're already conducting classes there as it is. But I think one of the reservations that we had with regards to, well, there are a couple of reservations with regards to the project even being administered through the art space. And one is, of course, the art space is it's not a 501c3 organization. It's a privately endowed and from what I can for-profit organization. And the second part is that it's not within the MLK corridor. It doesn't live within the MLK corridor. So I think taking it out of that purview, taking it out of the corridor is, I do have some reservations with regards to using the art space, specifically paying the art space for this project. I prefer to see us do it within the corridor if that's at all possible. And then the other issues, I recognize that the art space also have students that they have sourced, that they are working with, that might be better prepped for this. But I also think that it's really important for the residents in the MLK corridor and those other constituents that are there recognize that this is something that is really specifically designed to enhance the opportunities for the students within the Martin Luther King corridor. So I would want to have a program in place to ensure that the students are really being sourced from there.
Yeah.
And,
Just to respond, I guess there's two parts of that. I did have a conversation with Duvion, and he meant to be on this call, but he had to step off. But for him, he said, yeah, they are a for-profit and they have an endowment, but for him, it's about sustainability, right? He's thinking long-term as far as the space is concerned. And he's, really thinking about it. It needs to be sustainable for them as an organization. They can't always count on getting this money. At some point the money's going to run out. So that's what he had to say about that. They have been very active, reaching out to the community, specifically the MLK corridor community. I know that they've worked and had an arts, I don't know what you would call, at Ryan Park, where they work with kids and they had a day and they were out there. And they also have have gotten kids from the Carver Center, or actually gone to the Carver Center and done classes there. So as far as the community aspect, I don't think you're going to find anyone more embedded in the heart of Norwalk than Duvion Montoya.
I wouldn't dispute that either, but I will say that just to echo Janet's concern, I'm concerned about us using MLK money that's supposed to be enhancing the MLK corridor. I'm concerned about funding the Norwalk Art Space specifically. For money to go to them. For me, just speaking personally, if this proposal in itself, I think is amazing. I think it's a great idea. I just don't know if it's appropriate for the MLK money to be spent in this way. And I'm concerned, I have concerns about the cost, because I think that $80 an hour is a very fair rate. Let's just say, I don't want to dispute the value of Jermaine's work, because I know his work. I know he's incredible, but I think that, I just have concerns for the overall cost, and those are my concerns.
Yeah, I think just before anyone jumps in, I think that you're not funding the Art Center. They're just hosting this program, which is the Arts Lab. And then as far as what the MLK corridor gets out of it, right? It is art. There are going to be, new pieces of art created by students within this, beautifying this space. So I think, we've seen the positivity that's come out of the work that Lauren did. I think this is the same thing. This becomes one of those things that people talk about, and kids are involved, and it just would get so much traction as far as, and visibility, right? This is a highly visible corridor. And you're giving these kids this opportunity. So as far as the, what the Arts Commission gets out of it, I think it is the art, which is the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do, is to create art. And that's what this is meant to deliver.
This is Melissa. I would prefer to see something tied back into MLK a little bit more. I mean, this is the Black History Month. And I mean, I think it'd be wonderful to take the artist who did the murals and take her to the high schools and have her do some kind of program there. And I think that might be a better return on investment as far as the number of kids we're reaching and something like that. Whereas this is only reaching out to 8 children. I understand it's a master class, but I would rather see something that ties more into the MLK as far as the program should. Also, I'm just curious, Mark, what are the steps now? Do we need a vote? What are we looking to do at this point?
Well, if there, I mean, unless there's a clear cause for tabling it for further discussion, then we can call for a vote of approval. And I can call, you know, if there's nothing else to be discussed, then certainly we can do that. I can call for any motions for approval.
I think one of the other concerns that, I have, I think the program is excellent, it's great. I think if, we've got 4 traffic boxes, 8 students, I think that's all fine. I mean, another concern with regards to this program, again, being administered or being housed through the Norwalk Art Space, is then I think from an optics point of view, I mean, it could all get lost in the branding. It could now become the Norwalk Art Space MLK project, as opposed to, I think what we have successfully achieved with Lauren's work on those 2 more murals, where it was very, very clear that this was within a City of Norwalk project, and specifically from the MLK community, from this group of Baptist ministers that have this South Norwalk Committee program, where they're involved in the initiatives in South Norwalk. So, I mean, again, if we can find a way to consider, again, keeping it within the quarter, maybe moving it from the Norwalk Art Space. One of the other places that I mentioned that has space are places like the Smilo Center. We talked about the Norwalk housing community that also has a space where they conduct after-school programs. So, I think it's a great program for the kids. I'm just concerned that, having it through the Norwalk Art Space is diluting what the real effort of this program is, could potentially dilute it.
Julio, I know, just in response to Janet's comment, I know you have looked into other spaces. Do you want to speak to that a little bit in some of the spaces you have explored, and I don't know, just other options that might be out there? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually the Norwalk Housing Authority, obviously has a space right there next to Ryan Park. You have the YMCA that's right there next to Ryan Park as well. The Smilo Center, I haven't reached out to, but that's an option as well. I think, again, these spaces are not set up for this type of project. Certainly, they'll let you come in and teach something and do something there. But to me, it ends up being like an extra layer of work, and they have to get, like, you would have to get approvals through the Norwalk Housing Authority. You would have to get approvals from within the YMCA and all of that. So it just becomes that extra layer of administration and management as far as, managing something like that. And then they would be responsible for these kids. And it just, it ends up being an extra layer when the art center is already set up. They already have the students. They already have the space. They're interested in this type of thing. And they want to be a part of the Norwalk community. So, it is. And then actually Jermaine is a fellow within that space as well. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely research it, but for me, it's just like, the management and the administration. That's the administrative part of it. Who puts that together? Who makes sure that, that the space is cleaned up and taken care of, and all the extra stuff that happens when you bring in a bunch of kids and they start painting and doing stuff. Where do those supplies live, and where do they get stored when you're not there? Where are the supplies stored for when you're actually creating the mural? they need to have a space that has to be dedicated to create a demural, and that to me is why the Norwalk Arts Center makes so much sense. And then going into the Norwalk Housing Authority just opens up another can of worms, honestly.
I think my only concern for what you said just now is that going back to what you said before, the money for the Norwalk Art Space to source the students and to administer, like signing up the students and so on and so forth. But you had just said just now that their selling point is that they already have the students. Jermaine is already teaching these kids, and so it's like that we don't. Is there really that expense of going out to sign up 8 kids who are already part of their program and already being taught by Jermaine at the studio? I just I'm unclear what that administrative role is, and what I mean. It's great that they let us use. It's great that we're using their space, but
it's unfortunate.
Seems like all that is already in place.
Duvian wanted to be here and talk to that. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what for them, it's about sustainability and kind of using their administrative, powers and putting it all together, packaging it all.
And that's what I mean. Like, I think it's a really great proposal. I think what we're wrestling with is whether it's appropriate for the MLK project in general. I think it's a great project. Like I had said in one of the other meetings, I love Duvian's art, and I want to support, teaching art to Norwalk kids. I think it's a great idea. But I'm just wrestling with that in terms of if we're funding public art in the MLK corridor. I think it's great for Norwalk students, but are we really? How are we really making good use of the money to benefit the MLK corridor when we could, use $3,000 in David Shockley's budget now to paint 3 traffic boxes without any of this other stuff? And
well, I think, again, it goes back to the value of the overall, idea of the MLK corridor, right? And linking it all together. The vision was linking all these works together so that if someone was in one part of MLK and be like, oh wow, that's part of this other thing that I saw down the street. So that's really what it's about, just getting as much art out there as possible.
Well, in regard to the proposal, do you feel like, with where we are now, do you feel there is room to develop it further? Or do you feel like this is, and are you willing to talk about any part of this, or is this sort of all in?
I came prepared to die on the hill tonight, and certainly, these are conversations that we've been having for a while, but I care about this project very, very much so. I think it would make a big difference to the kids to see their artwork displayed like this, and it becomes like something that, wow, could have an impact in someone's life. So, I still believe in it. I can certainly look into, what other spaces would possibly work. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, I kind of, want to put the baby to bed, so to speak. It's just like, if it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. But, I don't know. I'm a little down the road here.
Julio, do we know who these students are? I mean, you're saying that these students are already doing the classes. I mean, they're already affiliated with.
No, we don't know who the students are. I mean, obviously there would be some sort of outreach to people. Jermaine, obviously has kids that he's worked with. So we don't know who they are. We don't even have a program. So there's no conversations with anyone at this point other than the Jermaine and Duvian.
I suspect the art space, right, doesn't want to be seen as a place that's going to give away their space, right? As part of it, they, it'd be hard for them to just donate their space. That's understandable. Maybe that's part of the sustainability argument. But is it possible that they would consider, dropping the fee to some degree, or negotiating that fee?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly, put it up the flagpole, and, it's unfortunate Duvian had to leave. But, I think he wants to do it as well. He wants to do it, and obviously Jermaine wants to do it. So, maybe there's something, maybe there's a conversation there. Yeah, absolutely.
I
That's
think,
my-
some of.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Steve. No, Steve, please finish.
No, that was it. I just wanted to say from what I'm hearing, but anyway, personally, I think that's my main reservation at this point.
I think there is real value in supporting the art institutions that are within our town. Unfortunately, I have, pardon my ignorance, but I do not know what the Smilo Center is. But as far as people who are championing art in Norwalk Art Space does seem to be at the forefront, let's say. Whether they're for profit or not, I think, we could go back and forth about this all night. I think Steve brings up a good point about, they don't want to come off as, just giving spaces away. They do have costs to cover. And I think ultimately, the last thing I want to see is this aspect of the proposal fractured more. I think there's a potential to discuss the possibility of maybe removing the art space for now because it seems to be the thing that everybody's hung up on, and that's fine and that's understandable. Maybe removing that aspect of the proposal because it seems everybody's on board with everything else about it. And giving Julio a chance to potentially look into some of these other spaces. Again, I'm not sure what may or may not be involved in them. But I think ultimately, even if we do that, we do need to have sort of this plan B, and that plan B could be the art space. We do have the money. Julio has brought the budget down. There's $1,000 insurance $1,000 line item for insurance that I ultimately don't think is going to be necessary. So ultimately, we're clocking in around 7,000 or less for something like this. I don't know. I'm bringing up a lot of points, I know, and I'm all over the place. But I guess the main thing is, do we want to do our best to support the art institutions, whatever they may be, clubs, organizations, etc., within our city? I do recognize that it's not an MLK corridor, and I do see that as being a possible pain point. And then the other option, or the other thing I'm bringing up, is the fact that there's a possibility of Julio looking into some of these other spaces. But again, giving ourselves this kind of backup plan of the art space. He's already talked to them. They're already willing to host it. Yes, there's possibility to go back and forth about costs and things. But anyway, those are my two big sort of points I want to make.
Yeah, so that's I totally hear you. And on the insurance, I'm assuming that the Norwalk Art Space has their own insurance for when kids are in their facility, right? Because they're already teaching kids.
Yeah.
When the city commissions somebody to go paint a traffic box, the city has insurance in place for that. So I don't know if we need to fund additional insurance for this or not. And I think that
Bob's done that personally. Maybe Bob can mention something about that.
the right thing to do would be go to the city underwriter, Craig, through Sabrina, and find out if we do need additional insurance for this, because the city may already have that in place. I think that's an unanswered question for me. On the other hand, maybe $1,000 is way low. Who knows? I don't think we know. That's the problem. I think $1,000 for materials, to me, that sounds high. Maybe, but that's production and materials, so it's a little, it's hard to say how that separates out. I know that we were talking initially in the initial proposal, it was $1,000 for materials. Now that's production material. So I don't really know. I mean, Brian.
That was kind of adjusted for any transportation and extra equipment that may be needed.
Right.
With
mean, I
regards
think-
to the insurance, I don't think the insurance is going to be anywhere near that. I mean, generally and I'm just going through experience, the only insurance that would be needed, let's say if those traffic boxes are on a non-city property that's not already insured, then that property might want to have an insurance in place that protects their interests from any type of incidences or that might happen there. From what I do understand, that could be like a policy over a weekend of painting. Let's say if they're going to be painting for a week, the production is one weekend. I mean, it could be as low as $50, for the weekend, to cover the liabilities there. So I don't think, the insurance would generally be that much, or you could actually get a 6 months policy or 3 months policy that would fall well under or in the $200 range to cover, again, if we're dealing with properties that are non-city properties that we have to protect. I think, Julio, maybe if the art space can reconsider, with regards to the costs and, reconsider donating the space for it, I think that would be a good thing, if they really want to be a part of this project. And, I think that's something that, maybe you could go back and see if they could do. And I also think that, if we were to move along with the art space housing or, providing any of the administration for this project, I think that we would have to put some sort of, as you say, stipulations or guidelines in place so that it is very clear that this is a City of Norwalk capital public arts program within the Martin Luther King corridor, and any kind of messaging around that has to be relative to that. So for example, the art space couldn't use it as any kind of brand enhancement for the art space itself. It would have to be very clear that it's a Martin Luther King Norwalk Arts Commission, City of Norwalk's project.
Also, there are a number of places up in Cranberry Park that the city has that are rentable. And I feel like we'd save a lot on this budget just by doing something like that.
That's
And
not
I know
MLK corridor though.
Well, I understand it's not in the MLK corridor. I just have I feel like the 1,500 is a lot out of that budget to provide for rental space. So, if we could just knock it down a little bit.
But it's not just a space, obviously, it's the administrative part of it as well.
Right, and with the administrative part, I kind of feel like that's wrapped into with what the artist is doing as far as his program. Am I not wrong there that if you're putting on that program, you would, manage the program?
Like for instance, obviously someone would have to be opening and closing the building, and obviously the administration of talking to students and bringing students in and things like that. So that's what that would include. So they actually have staffing, people that actually will be there, as well as Jermaine, but
And anytime you rent anywhere else, they have that. That comes with renting a facility.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Again, this is, this is a space that's already, creating this type of class. So again, it's just one of those things that they are experts in this. And when you go to another space, a Cranberry, you have to bring all of that into that space. And, these spaces aren't set up to do this kind of project.
I think there is value in the fact that this is pretty much turnkey. Julio's done, he's done the legwork on this. He's worked out all these kinks. Effectively, if this is the hang up on the space, and we sort of go back to drawing board a little bit, he's more or less starting from scratch. Not exactly, I get it, but this is something that effectively could put into motion tomorrow if it gets approved tonight. And I think there is value in that. I recognize all the concerns, of course.
It's turnkey. It's turnkey. There isn't a lot, right? But at the same time, we're looking for them to administer it and source these students. So
am I on mute?
No, you're not.
Back in the day when Susan was chairwoman, we had a very good relationship with the 20 West kids, and they had staff who did art projects with them. And I don't know if they had a space to do them, but they've done the traffic graphic boxes. They've done other things. Yeah. So yes, I understand the.
I actually taught one of those
other
classes.
Place. Mm-hmm.
I actually taught one of those
so,
classes.
I mean,
yeah.
So it's like, I like Duvion. I mean, he's done a lot for the city, but if that's the where it's going to be, doesn't 20 West have a similar situation where he can teach them at the 20 West place? And it's already insured, or is that not going to work?
Yeah, again, these spaces, have kids. They're a very active after school program, and they do actually have an arts program there that I actually taught there, and we did a traffic graphic box together. But they're just not really set up to do it, as far as like a dedicated project. There's no space in there where we can keep our supplies, for instance. So, and then again, I worked with those students before, and obviously we can go in there and throw some supplies on the table and be like, hey, let's get creative. But this is about kind of identifying and developing and investing in talent and finding that talent within Norwalk.
Mm. Mm.
So do we need a motion to go ahead and do a vote, or what are we planning on?
I can call for a motion to approve or not approve. I can call for any motion at this time. We can certainly do that.
I would like to move forward with a vote at this point. This is Melissa. I'd like to motion.
And what is your motion?
To approve this as is.
To approve it as is, but I'm not voting that way.
Okay.
I second the motion to
vote
on
the
this.
approval. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I second the motion to vote on approving this as is.
Okay, very good. If you could unshare your screen so that I can see the members that we have here. Let's move on to, let's go to Brian Casper for your vote.
Brian Casper, I vote aye.
Okay, Janet Evelyn?
I don't think that we should pay the Norwalk Art Space for this. So if the motion is to vote on it as it is, I'm going to say no.
Melissa Matuska?
I vote no.
Nora Gruden?
I vote no on, and then he just should come back and about the marketing, because I kind of agree with Janet on the fact that it should be marketed as the art commission and it's dedicated to MLK, and all that marketing should go for, because that money's coming from a grant from MLK. So I think it should be marketed that way.
To clarify, this is not a grant from MLK or for MLK. This was a capital budget request for the Arts Commission.
Okay. For MLK, for the MLK corridor, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. But it should be marketed, you know, for the art commission, as what Janet was saying. So not as I'm not voting as is.
Bob Abriola. Bob Abriola seems to have fallen off. Stephen Rust.
This is, it's difficult. I am new enough on the commission that I am torn, I have to say, and I wish that there was a way to do this. I think I wish there was a way to vote with, you know, a caveat or something, right? Is there any way to do that?
Well, let's put it this way: if the vote is unsuccessful in terms of moving forward on the proposal, there's no reason that they can't come back with another proposal. Sure, and in the meantime,
if the vote is unsuccessful tonight, there can also be another motion on the floor to approve it as is minus whatever alteration. I don't know if that's helpful to Julio or not if he doesn't have the art space involved, but there can also be that motion.
And Steve, you can also abstain.
Okay, then I'll abstain.
okay, Elizabeth Tardif.
I'm going to vote no as it is, because I do understand the concerns about sort of mixing it up with the MLK project. I like to keep that cleaner. I do love the idea of working with the Norwalk Art Space, but I don't see this as it is work. I just have to vote no as it is.
Do we have anyone left?
You, Mark, you.
So speaking for myself, I think the proposal is fantastic, and I would love to support it. But I don't think that it's ready for. I don't think it's really ready for prime time at this point. I have concerns about the insurance, and I have concerns about the overall cost, and I just think that it's not really ready for us at this point. I'm not. I have too many questions about it, so I would have, in good conscience, I would have to vote no. But I would love to see. I don't know if it's right for the MLK project, but I think it's great for Norwalk, and I would love to see us come up with other funding for this. And I think it's a great program. I just don't know if it's right for this, so I am unfortunately going to vote no.
A question to think on for you guys, either online or offline. We have the Art in Public Places program, $25,000, where we can reprogram the $13,000 that's left in the MLK corridor funding and do something else in the MLK corridor with that $13,000 and fund this with the Art in Public Places program, if that's something you want to do, if that makes it less complicated to mull over.
Yeah, I don't feel like the door is closed on this program. I'm just not ready to vote yes on it right at this moment.
I feel like we should take that back to the committee, because I think there were some other things that people were interested in doing at the committee, such as doing some bridge work or stuff around the bridges.
But maybe he could shift the mural to doing something that Brian wants to do with Art in Public Places and just shift it. And that way Art Space can do its classes, but it'd be a different type and not mural work.
I think
Guys,
They'll be learning something else.
Guys, I
But that's something to go
apologize.
back at.
yeah.
Guys, I apologize. I didn't ask Heidi Alterman for her vote. I apologize.
Okay.
Heidi, are you still there?
I believe she has
I
caucus.
think she wasn't. She wasn't feeling well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I think we should keep the money within the Martin Luther King corridor, and we should come back. We should think about designing a program that specifically puts a program in place for the Martin Luther King corridor, and that's where the money should be spent. That's what it was allocated to, and that's what we should do.
Well, Janet, in a sense that, we had formed a special committee under infrastructure and put you in charge of that. I'm open to your ideas and leadership on that. And I know Brian, of course, being the head of infrastructure in a sense, I think you should go back to infrastructure, and I think you should talk about these ideas.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible to roll some of this into some of the things we have already started talking about, especially because a lot of the locations we were talking about were still within this corridor. So yeah, definitely something to be chatted about offline.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point I wanted to make up. There's ways to use both pools of funding together to get both things. That makes sense.
That's great news.
Julio, how do you feel about continuing to talk to infrastructure and Brian and Janet to see about coming up with a new proposal? Do you feel like that has possibilities? I mean, I really love the program. I want to benefit Norwalk children and teach art. I really want that, and I want to see art get created in MLK corridor. I think I know that all your motivations are in the right place. I think there's a lot of potential there. It just has to be shaped the right way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm hearing kind of the feedback, the stumbling block seems to be the Norwalk Art Center. That's the main issue, is the $1,500 to the Norwalk Art Center. So if that was not there, and then the insurance obviously would bring it down. But if that's not there, then it's viable. Is that what I'm hearing, or we're going back to the drawing board as Brian suggested, and just totally, because I mean, at the same time, I've been talking to Jermaine probably now for 6 months, and I hate to keep dragging them along, and if nothing comes out of it, then I don't want to waste any more of his time. I just want to be clear as to what the goals are as far as coming back would be.
I would say that the goal is to ensure that, yes, a student art learning program is great, that we ensure that the students are from within the Martin Luther King corridor specifically. Maybe we collaborate with the IMF group there, with the churches there, to identify who those potential students are, all of that. And that, so yeah, if it's going to be a student project, otherwise, $13,000, maybe Lauren can go back to the drawing board and we come up with another location where we can put another amazing mural alongside what, but that separately from, the additional $25,000, not necessarily incorporated with the $25,000 that the additional capital spending, because I don't know that was specifically designated to the MLK. I know that this $13,000 is specifically dedicated to the MLK, and again, that's where we need to keep that $13,000. So whether it's Jermaine that put forward some ideas around a piece of art there, whether it's the traffic boxes with the studio, but something specifically within the Martin Luther King, and it's very clearly identified that that's what this money and that program is doing or is for.
Okay.
So I think we were all attracted to the idea of having a student art component. That was certainly an attractive thing to fold into this. But yeah, I mean, Janet is, you're suggesting that it doesn't need to be that. It could be an additional installation of public art by
Absolutely,
Domain or by anybody else.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
concur with what Janet and Mark are saying too. This is Melissa.
Well, I'm not saying it. I'm only clarifying what Janet said. And I do want to see more public. I want to see more public art get created in Norwalk. I want to see a ton of more art projects. I want to create opportunities for artists. So I mean, this does check a lot of those boxes. My reservations aside. But if it turns into an additional mural, a third mural, I think that would also be a win.
Absolutely.
Well, the other one that wasn't funded was the Celso mural. Obviously, something that was tabled because of budget. So if that's something that could be brought back, I think it's already ready to go as well. So.
I'm gonna see Celso in about a month. Going down to Puerto Rico, and he's gonna give me a tour of his studio and a tour of the arts district there. I'm looking forward to that. If I could talk him into doing it at a lower cost, I'm certainly going to try. I mean, his work is amazing. If anybody hasn't seen it, we can share it. Julio can share it, but this guy's work is just incredible. It's like murals on the sides. Imagine a mural on the side of a building that's mosaic tile. He does where mosaic to the point where it looks like a portrait. It looks like a facial portrait, but it's tile. It's incredible. And I think a piece of his work in Norwalk would be a huge draw for cultural tourism in Norwalk.
Absolutely.
And I think for that to be, I think it would be that may in the MLK corridor, but let's find a place that's really publicly visible with a lot of street traffic, and let's make it like a really, really big thing for Norwalk. I'm all for that. I'm 100% for that.
In my conversations, I think the beautiful thing about Celso, right, is the longevity of a traditional mural, honestly is like 5 years. It's just the paint. But he puts that tile down and that thing's going to last for 20 years. It is just going to be stunning, especially the scale of which he works at. So, again, I've had a conversation with him, back when we were talking about this. And he also has a community aspect to what he does, where he brings in, people from the community. He sources the materials locally, and it ends up becoming like a transformational event because it's just incredible the way he works. So again, yeah, this could be huge for the city of Norwalk if that's a direction. I think it's already been vetted. It's already been he's already been spoken to. If you talk to him and could possibly bring him down any more than he already has, then I would love to see that happen in Norwalk.
I had never priced one of his pieces before. I had never priced it because it just seems so monumental.
Yeah,
but I've seen
scale, I guess it's the scale
pieces.
of the scale of the wall that he's doing. It was that head wall on South Main, so it's pretty large. And the idea, he talked about kind of creating benches because he's an architect as well.
Yeah, he is.
He talked about creating a spaces so that the community can kind of come and sit by the art, and so it's a pretty amazing process that he has.
Yeah, this is just to give you an idea. I'm gonna share my screen here for a second, if you guys don't mind. I can find my Zoom.
I love your background, by the way.
Thanks.
It's a lost art.
Yeah, this is like one of his articles, and this is a wall that he had of Roberto Clemente, who was a Puerto Rican baseball player. You guys probably heard of him. You can see how detailed it is, And the mosaic that I did in Norwalk for in the art park, I blatantly tried to rip off his style, and I consider my work a shame compared to his work. You know, I really just wanted to learn it myself. Now I'm hoping that I can look at this. This is the kind of stuff he does. But yeah, his I love everything that they're about. When the hurricane hit, basically destroyed their part of San Juan, is they call it Santurce. It's the arts district there. Celso's crew spent a year just organizing their artistic friends to help people repair their roofs on their houses. That's what they did. I mean, I've learned a lot about how they have really resurrected their entire area through public art and community. I think there's a lot to be learned. I'd love to bring him to Norwalk. I think it would be huge for us. But anyway, I'll get off the soapbox about that. But I think we need to look for opportunities on these lines. And so, you know, as a motion, it's unfortunately a no for now, but I think we got to keep the conversation going. Anything else from anybody else before we motion for adjournment? In that case, thank you for all your patience, everybody. I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn, and I'm going to start with myself, Mark Allen, aye, and call for Janet Evelyn.
Aye.
Brian Casper.
Aye.
Melissa Matuska.
Aye.
Bob Abriola is not here. Stephen Rust.
Aye.
Liz Tardif. Liz, you can give us a thumbs up. Duly noted. Liz Tardif is an aye. And Nori Gruden.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate all of your time. Stephen, did I count you?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. So I'm not losing my mind. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. I appreciate your patience, and I'll follow up with everybody by email.
Okay. Good night.
Have a great night, everybody.
Right.